I'm Dana Bezerra. I'm currently the president of the Heron Foundation. Our job is to steward capital and really to try and steward it honorably, to learn to share it equitably, and eventually to transfer the power entirely to our partners. Capital impact, like most CDFIs, is positioned between the people who have the capital and the people who need the capital. And so I think it plays, and always has done, a great job of elevating the highlighting communities that are not well served with capital. And that's an important story to tell so that people with capital continue to understand that there is a need and a lack of readily available capital. On the other hand, with intergenerational wealth and the great transfer of wealth we're intending to see and likely will see in the next several years, Capital Impact Partners needs to be well positioned as a highly effective utilizer of that wealth, in particular to create more equitable societies. And so I think it's really on both ends that you need to be mindful of intergenerational wealth transfer. Most capital providers tend to be quite large, and it's very hard for them to source and to transact on a scale that's appropriate for most communities. And so Capital Impact Partners very much is an interlocutor in that space, in that they source needs or desires from communities and are able to package them in a way that capital providers are able to respond more consistently with their own mandates. It really is an invaluable role in the marketplace. During my tenure on the board, which was several years, there were many notable transitions, I would say, or decisions or inflection points. One of which was post the Detroit bankruptcy. Did Capital Impact want to take on a geographic footprint? What would that mean? What would that mean for the work? Would there be others? Was this setting precedent, or was it simply a call to action in one place? We talked a lot about, as anybody in CDFI land knows, the mix of capital that's required by Capital Impact in order to do the business that it does. And they were expanding in many ways that other CDFIs weren't at the time. Capital Impact Partners has always had an appetite to add complexity to their own organizational operations in service to trying to continue to make things easier and more equitable for communities. And I think that's just really invaluable in a partner. If you look at economic data across the country, a large percentage of our nation's employment comes from small businesses, and yet so many of them are locked out of the capacity to receive capital, either from banks or traditional lending sources. And so CDFIs and others have been instrumental in stepping into that space. Specifically, Heron had a long-tenured relationship with CDC Small Business in California, and of course a long-tenured either professional or through board service relationship with Capital Impact Partners. So for us, when the two started contemplating a merger, it was really the best of both worlds, not only from a geography standpoint, Capital Impact, of course, on the East Coast and CDC on the West Coast, but a beautiful weaving of talents. Capital Impact is in sectors of the market that CDC is not, and vice versa. And so being able to put together sort of a full suite of offerings for community players, from charter schools, grocery stores, affordable housing to small business lending, was an opportunity we just didn't want to pass up. I'm always saying that if Capital Impact Partners doesn't have a formal alumni network, they should, because the diaspora from Capital Impact Partners is really quite broad. Folks who go on to serve at federal levels, folks who go on to serve in philanthropy or in banks or in our community-based partners. And I know for me, when I recognize Capital Impact Partners on somebody's LinkedIn page or resume, there's definitely an implication. It's implied that they had good training, they share a worldview. There's lots of things attributed to that time spent at Capital Impact Partners. And I just think they're a wonderful generative place to seed our field with practitioners who can be effective